This podcast is sponsored by Lamprobe. Lamprobe is a popular aesthetic tool that enables skincare practitioners to rapidly treat a wide variety of common minor skin irregularities, or MSI. Red MSI treated by Lamprobe include dilated capillaries and cherry angiomas, yellow MSI, cholesterol deposits and sebaceous hyperplasia, and brown MSI treated include skin tags and more. Lamprobe MSI treatments are non-invasive and deliver immediate results. Lamprobe can empower your skin practice with these new and highly in-demand services. For more information, visit lamprobe.com. That's LAMPROBE.com. And follow Lamprobe on social media at Lamprobe.
Welcome, everybody, to ASCP and the Rogue Pharmacist, Benjamin Knight Fuchs. In each episode, we explore how ingredients, chemicals, and the environment can have a positive and negative effects on the skin. I'm Tracy Donnelly, Executive Director of ASCP, if you don't know me yet. And joining me today and co-hosting is Maggie Staszcuk, our very own Education Manager. Hey, Maggie.
Hey, Tracy.
And let me just take a moment here because I need to make sure everybody out there, at least all of our members, have downloaded ASCP Skin Pro. Hello, ingredients, skin conditions, right there at the palm of your hand. It's so simple, you guys. All you do is log in to the website, ascpskincare.com, with your phone. Your phone, it's like brilliant because it'll just know what phone you're on. It'll tell you how to download it, and boom. Ingredients, skin conditions, contraindications, indications, all in the palm of your hand while you're in the treatment room. So easy. So just do it. So anyhow, okay, girl, I got a question for you. So how important do you think a strong, healthy skin barrier is? And are you doing something specific in your daily routine to support it, Maggie?
It is so important, Tracy. It is the end all be all. If your barrier is not intact, you've got problems. And yeah, I'm doing something to protect it. I'm putting on my serums and my creams and my sunscreen, and I'm washing it every day. And Ben will tell you got to have good gut health too to have a strong skin barrier.
Ben's excited over there. He's giving like thumbs
Very
up
good.
and like whoop,
Very
whoop.
good. I like that.
All right. Well, we're going to see what Ben has to say. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? So today we are going to be discussing the 3 main ingredients needed to support barrier function. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a while. So I'm
It
excited.
probably has been a while. I hope do I sound weird?
Oh yeah, you sound like a total sickie.
Man.
Those
It's
allergies.
it's allergies. So the barrier, huh?
Yeah. 3 ingredients.
Right.
I'm dying.
The barrier is kind of interesting. You know, it's the most unique tissue in the body, the barrier, because it has a quality that most tissue in the body does not have. What is that quality?
I
The
am
barrier
clueless.
It's
is,
acidic, right?
well, it is acidic and it needs to be acidic. In fact, unhealthy skin is less acidic than
Back to the
healthy
pH
skin.
conversation.
Back to the pH conversation. But the barrier is dead. It's made up, I should say it's made up of dead cells. There's some activity in it, but the barrier is made up of dead cells, yet it's really functional. And its functionality is really interesting in a way that we take for granted. Think about it. Your entire body is held in place by the barrier.
Oh, true.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Without the barrier, you would like fly off into the ethers.
Yeah, just guts everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Everything you wouldn't even have guts. Everything would just fly off into everything. And so the barrier is extremely important. To me, the most important thing you do for the barrier is break it down. And sometimes you hear people say, oh, you don't want to break down the barrier, you want to be careful of the barrier. But ironically, when you break down the barrier, you build it up. It builds up stronger. And in chemistry, we say catabolism precedes anabolism. Catabolism means break down. Anabolism means build up. So a breakdown precedes build up. And that's why we exercise.
Oh, I was just thinking that in my head while you were saying that. Yep.
Exactly. If you go to the gym, what are you doing to your muscles?
You're ripping them up.
Ripping them up. What happens the next day?
They're fixing themselves.
They get bigger and stronger and better. And this is kind of an interesting phenomenon that is the hallmark of life. The computer doesn't do that. A fan doesn't do that. You can't use your car over and over and over again and go off four-wheeling and tear it all up and have it come back and you park your little Chevy,
your Jeep Wrangler.
Jeep
after
Wrangler,
you've
have
gone,
it be
like,
a Cadillac
off-roading.
Escalade.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't non-living things don't get bigger when they're broken down, but living things do. So the most important thing you do for the barrier is exercise. I call it exercise it. Estheticians would call it exfoliate. And that means break it up, disturb it. Now, it's not enough to disturb it, but that's the first step, is disturbing it. And that's why, to me, exfoliation is the first step to keeping the skin healthy in general. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but also the barrier. Because in order to build up, you got to break down first.
Okay,
So,
with that exfoliation thing, really quick question. We've talked so many times on the different podcasts that there's so many different types of exfoliation. Does it matter what type of exfoliation?
I was about to say, talk to you about that.
I'm
Yeah, there
jumping
are
in.
different types of exfoliation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can use a washcloth to exfoliate, because really exfolia means to remove leaves. The cells are analogous to leaves. Exfoliage for foliage, or folia for foliage. So using a washcloth can do it. Shoot little crystals at it with microdermabrasion machines, and an esthetician's office will do it. Men do it when they shave. Lots of different ways that you can exfoliate. Those are mechanical terms. There's mechanical mechanisms. There's also chemical mechanisms, such as enzymes can have an exfoliating property. Retinol can have an exfoliating property, and that's a really interesting ingredient. We'll talk about that here in a second. But my favorite way to exfoliate is with hydroxy acids. Because with hydroxy acids, you get two mechanisms of stimulation. Number one, you get the exfoliation, and that initiates growth, and that initiates the movement of cells from the bottom to the top. But number two, with alpha hydroxy acids, you get the acid. And as Maggie pointed out, you drop the skin pH, you make the skin healthier. The pH of the skin has to be acid, and skin that is not as healthy has a higher pH, a more alkaline pH. So with alpha hydroxy acids, you get a 1-2 punch. You get the exfoliation, plus you drop the pH, you make the skin more acidic. But you also get another benefit, and that is when you use alpha hydroxy acids, little pieces, and I don't want to get too much into chemistry here.
Oh, yes, you do.
All right,
I know you do.
I do. What makes something acid is little pieces of quantum particles called protons. Now, you've probably heard of electrons. Everybody's heard of electrons. Those are little pieces of electricity. Protons balance out electrons. And what makes something acid is its ability to deliver protons. The more acidic it is, the faster it's delivering protons. Alpha hydroxy acids deliver protons, and cells are responsive to protons. Cells interpret protons as a sign they have to grow and they have to divide. So with alpha hydroxy acids, not only do you get exfoliation, not only do you get a pH, a rebalancing or a lowering of the skin pH, but you also get the delivery of protons, which turn things on at the living cell level. So to me, alpha hydroxy acids are a must-have for exfoliation. Yes, washcloths will work, shaving will work, microdermabrasion will work, enzymes will work. There's lots of ingredients that will work, but when you use alpha hydroxy acids and beta hydroxy acids, by the way, you get these three mechanisms of action for better skin. And every time I hear it, I don't hear it a lot, but occasionally I hear a skincare professional or a healthcare professional or a physician who'll say, don't do this process, don't exfoliate your skin. I can't imagine how somebody who understands skin could ever say something like that, because to me, that's like saying, don't go to the gym.
Yeah, don't work out that muscle.
Don't work out.
Because,
right.
It's going to wreck it.
Right. However, and I think this might be what you're about to say, Maggie, you do have to make sure that the skin is strong enough, just like you have to make sure the muscles are strong enough to lift weights. You have to make sure that the skin is strong enough. And the way you make sure the skin is strong enough is by using other ingredients that support skin health and support barrier repair. Because what you're doing when you're exfoliating is you're not repairing the barrier, you're stimulating barrier repair. So you got to make sure that all the mechanisms are in place in the tissue for that barrier repair to occur. And I'll tell you a couple of those here in a second. Yeah.
What I want to ask you about is the Hayflick limit.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that
Yes,
theory?
I'm familiar with the Hayflick limit, and I'm not sure about the Hayflick limit, how realistic the Hayflick limit is in the skin itself. Whether the Hayflick limit is the amount of times a cell can divide before it dies. But what we're talking about with the skin is we're not talking about the same cells dividing. We're talking about new cells, new stem cells. We're encouraging the growth of new keratinocytes from stem cells. So even if those cells are dividing, have a limit to the amount of times they could divide, there's always going to be fresh new cells that can start a new Hayflick limit. So I'm not sure that the Hayflick limit really applies to the skin. But as I was saying, you got to make sure that the skin is healthy enough to be able to enjoy the benefits of the exfoliation. There's lots of great nutrients for that. The most important probably are fats, fatty acids. Now, under conditions of fatty acids, you're not going to be able to repair the barrier as effectively. There are ingredients that formulators will put in skincare products that duplicate the actions of those fatty acids, But really, it's not going to have the same effect as the kind of fatty acids that are secreted out of the skin cells. Fatty acids are secreted out of the skin cells as they're rising to the top. So you got to kind of picture in your mind's eye here how this whole system works. You have the surface, which is the barrier, right? The stratum corneum. And then underneath, you have the living cells in what's called the basal layer. And in between, you have progressively, the cells in between are progressively less alive. I think we probably talked about this. So the whole skin, the epidermis, this is, by the way, the epidermis that we're talking about, not the dermis. This is the top of the skin. So the whole epidermis is as thick as maybe a piece of notebook paper. Whole epidermis, right? The stratum corneum, the barrier, is about as thick as 1/10 of a piece of notebook paper. I mean, it's really, we're talking about a very, very thin layer of tissue here at the stratum corneum, but it's obviously incredibly important. It keeps you from flying apart. And really, its main role, what's the barrier's main role?
To protect you. That's why it's
protect
called
from one thing. Its main role, it has other roles too. It protects us from a lot of things, but its main role is to protect us from desiccation, from drying. In fact, if you go to a burn ward where the stratum corneum has been burnt off and these people are, in agony, I don't know if you've ever seen a burn ward, they have Vaseline. They put lots of Vaseline on their skin to keep them from drying out. The barrier's main role is to keep water in and to keep water out. And this plays a very important role when it comes to understanding how to use skincare products effectively. This barrier, this water repellent nature of the barrier is largely based in these fats that are secreted out of the cells as they're rising from the bottom to the top. So just picture in your mind's eye at the bottom, the basal layer, at the bottom of the epidermis, you have these cells round and plump and juicy, and they're rising to the top. Have we talked about this before? I don't know.
No, keep it on.
And they're rising up to the top. And as they're rising up to the top, they dump their contents overboard.
Oh, and that's the fatty?
That's the fats. And other things, moisture factors as well.
I've been recently seeing supplements on the market that is all about supposedly to keep you hydrated.
Hyaluronic acid?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So as the cells are rising from the bottom to top, they start their life round and plump and juicy at the bottom. They're called keratinocytes at that point, at the basal layer. And they're rising up from the bottom to the top, and they're dumping their contents overboard. And as they're dumping their contents overboard, they're kind of changing shape. And they go from round and plump and juicy to progressively flatter and less alive. In fact, dead once they reach a certain point after the basal layer until they get to the top where they become essentially flat and dead. So they start their life round and plump and juicy, ended flat and dead, just like us.
I was just thinking that. I was like, gosh,
just like people,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Round and plump and juicy at the beginning, flat and dead at the end. But the cool thing is that as they're rising, they're dumping their contents overboard, and their contents become fatty acids and fatty factors like ceramides, and also amino acids and sugars that compose what are called the natural moisture factor. And this is how skin stays hydrated. And so hydration of the skin is a function of the movement of these cells from the bottom to the top, which tells you something very interesting. The more movement you have from the cells going from the bottom to the top, the more hydrated your skin will be, which is the exact opposite of what people think. Exfoliation, stimulating the movement of cells from the bottom to the top, is actually pro-hydration. It's actually how you improve hydration. It's actually how you improve the barrier to prevent water from leaking out. And it's how you strengthen the barrier as well. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So exfoliation using alpha hydroxy acids is, to me, the most important step. Number 2 is the fats. And that means especially the essential fats. Now, there's lots of fats and most of them.
Ingesting. We're talking about ingesting.
Ingesting. Yeah. Absolutely ingesting. Now, there's some topical things you could do to strengthen the barrier, but for the most part, your strategies are going to be internal. And that, to me, is a missing link in skincare. I'm a skincare product formulator, and I formulated thousands of products, and I have a business where I formulate skincare products. I make money off it. But to be perfectly honest, the bulk of the health of your skin is determined by what you're eating or what you're not eating, what you're getting or what you're not getting. And that is a critical thing to understand for us in the skincare business. Not so much for me as a formulator, but for therapists.
Right, to
for
cause
clinicians.
change, to make things happen, results.
Yes. But the clinician has to understand if she wants to, or he or she wants to create a change in the skin, you have to understand how the thing is built. And it's not built from what you put on top, although you can stimulate things a little bit. It's built from what you're putting in the blood, i.e. what's getting into your digestive system and then into the blood. That's why supplementation is critical, not only for the patient who's dealing with an issue, but for the therapist who wants to make a change. and also dietary strategies and digestive strategies as well.
Okay, so talking about, I just got to ask this quick question.
Okay.
So talking about supplementation,
Yeah.
and we were talking about hydration. I have been seeing on the market more and more these supplements that are saying that they promote hydration in the
Yes.
skin, and I believe that it is hyaluronic acid. Is that?
Say that again.
I know.
My friend says highly ironic acid.
Highly ironic acid. That sounds fun.
It's funny because I've been talking about high hyaluronic acid for a long time because in pharmacy school we learned about it. And when I started formulating with high hyaluronic acid, you could only get it from rooster combs, and so it was incredibly expensive. Feel your earlobe, right? You were on a farm? You grew up on a farm, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the country, and I've been exposed
Did you see
to
roosters?
farms.
No roosters?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever squeeze the rooster comb?
No, I've never. I was afraid of them. They're a little mean.
Yeah, they're kind of mean.
They're mean.
I get you guys haven't done it, right?
They're
Well,
like,
if you feel a rooster comb, it feels like your earlobe. Feel your earlobe.
like that's kind of softer than I would think it would
That
feel.
your earlobe has a spongy quality. That's the high hyaluronic.
Are you talking about the little red things?
Yeah, the little red things.
The little
Has a
red things. Okay.
And when I was in pharmacy school many years ago,
Mhm.
the only place you could get high hyaluronic acid, it was well known as a very important molecule in the body, but the only place you could get it was in rooster combs. So it would cost like $1,000 for a gram of the stuff.
All those roosters running around with all
Yeah.
their cute little hats
Well,
on.
they killed the roosters first,
okay.
probably.
Okay.
But nonetheless, it was very difficult to get highly ironic acid.
Highly ironic acid. Okay, but anyhow, is that effective?
So yes, it is. It's incredibly effective.
Ingesting it.
Ingesting. It's not only effective, it's important. It's critical for anti-aging, not just for hydration, but for connective tissue, for joints, for the dermis, for the fascia inside the body, for the cartilage between the vertebrae. For anywhere we have connective tissue, high hyaluronic acid is amazing stuff. In fact, it's so amazing that it's gotten a reputation for being a topical ingredient.
Right.
Because it's so amazing. But it doesn't really have the same kind of benefits topically.
Really?
It will have some because it traps water. Hyaluronic acid, and I was kidding when I said feel your earlobe, but I'm kind of serious because the spongy quality of your earlobe is a result of the combination of high hyaluronic acid and molecules like high hyaluronic acid and water. And that's what makes it spongy. And so high hyaluronic acid can attract a lot of water. It's in chemistry, we say it's hygroscopic, meaning it attracts water, but it's really hygroscopic so that a gram of high hyaluronic acid can hold 1,000 grams of water. That means a teaspoon of high hyaluronic acid powder can hold a gallon of water. That's an incredible amount of hygroscopicity or water trapping ability. In fact, high hyaluronic acid is so water trapping that in products, you will only see it in very low concentrations, less than 1%.
Really? Because I mean, everyone is out there putting it all over their bottles.
Any more than 1% of high hyaluronic acid in a solution or in a product would create this jelly mass that would not be very appealing or very attractive or very functional because you couldn't rub it on your skin. So you're really limited in the amount of high hyaluronic acid you can put in a product because of its incredible water trapping properties. Nonetheless, the water trapping properties can kind of soften the dead skin cells on the surface. Remember, the skin cells here are dead. And so the softening and the moisturizing of the dead skin cells is really where a lot of people feel like they have problem skin. This is one of the biggest complaints people have is the lack of moisture in the cornea sites in the stratum corneum. So high hyaluronic acid applied topically can relieve some of that.
It's faking you out.
It's faking you out.
Okay, let's just say it.
So if you are using a hyaluronic serum, and let's just say it's straight hyaluronic, and you are not supplementing by putting a moisturizer on top, or you are already dehydrated, is it going to have the alternate effect
Yes.
and dehydrate you further?
Which is why the worst thing you could ever put on dry skin is a moisturizer. And I know,
Wow,
I know I've said that before. I'm sure I said that
I know,
before.
but sometimes you
Right.
got to hear it a few
The
times.
worst thing you could put on your skin is a moisturizer because what you do is you suppress everything. A moisturizer is an anti-exfoliator. So an exfoliator is disturbing and removing and increasing sloughing off. A moisturizer is sealing and putting stuff on top. So just like an exfoliator will stimulate things, turn things on, a moisturizer dumbs things down. It turns things off. And this is why we get addicted to our moisturizers. This is why everybody, you guys I'm sure can acknowledge this or recognize this, you have a moisturizer in your purse and in your desk and in your locker and in your car and in your vanity and in your kitchen, and you have it everywhere. You got moisturizers everywhere.
On your lips.
Everywhere
Yeah.
people have moisturizers, but everybody has dry skin. How can that be? With all the moisturizers, the millions, billions of dollars in moisturizers or something, why does everybody have dry skin? Clearly, there's something wrong. Well, what it is we're suppressing our skin's ability to moisturize itself. And by the way, I worked for Blistex. That's how I learned all this stuff. That's why people get addicted to their Blistex. Because
it's so addictive.
The lips are extreme skin because they're sticking out. So nature has equipped them to be very, very protected. They're extremely exposed to the wind and to the sun and to the environment. So nature has loaded them with these moisture factors and natural sponges that trap water. When you put your Blistex on or your chapstick on, whatever it is, you shut those down. So if you want to have moist, soft lips, guess what? Exfoliate. And that's, there's a product idea. I'm sure there's probably exfoliator products.
Yeah, well, that makes sense why I've been seeing much more
lip exfoliation.
And I always was like, well, that's going to make them dry and then I'll have to put more stuff on them.
There you go.
See,
there you go. You're still in now, but it's very important to recognize it's not enough to go to the gym. If you go to the gym, but you're not healthy, don't go to the gym. You're going to make things worse, right? If your body is not prepared to lift weights or to do some kind of strenuous exercise, you're not only not going to get the benefits of the exercise, you're going to make things worse. So if your skin, we're using this analogy of exercise with exfoliation. If your skin is not resilient enough to be able to handle exfoliation, be careful or don't even do it. So what you want to do is you want to get your skin prepared, and that's where these ingredients like fatty acids, must have essential fatty acids. In fact, in laboratories, if you want to induce xerosis, which is the technical term for dry skin, in a laboratory animal, take the essential fatty acids out of the diet, and you'll get xerosis within a matter of days or weeks. Now, how many human beings are not getting their essential fatty acids? How many human beings?
Probably everyone, right?
Yeah. And how many human beings who know enough to get essential fatty acids are absorbing their essential fatty acids? And
are you looking at me?
especially as we get older, and especially women, because there's a relationship between estrogen, the female hormone estrogen, and fatty acid absorption. And so as women get older, their ability to process fats becomes compromised. This is why older women are especially prone to gallbladder issues. So as we get older, and especially as women get older, it becomes very important not just to supplement with essential fatty acids and not only omega-3s. There's this kind of myth out there that omega-6s are not important, that you need the omega-3s. It turns out that most of the skin's moisturizing and the health of the skin cells depends on omega-6 fatty acids, not the omega-3s. Omega-3s play a role for sure. They're calming, they're anti-inflammatory, they're sun protective. They have a lot of important roles to play. But for moisturization and for barrier repair, omega-6s are vital. And omega-6s actually get converted into the latest popular skincare ingredient, which is not going to really help you so much topically, but it will definitely help you make them, and that's the ceramides. The ceramides are the most important fat for keeping the barrier healthy and keeping the skin hydrated. And there's a lot of products now that are kind of taking advantage of the science of ceramides by including them in their formulations. You can't really get the benefits of ceramides topically, although it's probably better for you than a vegetable oil. Vegetable oils on the skin, by the way, that's a bad idea. Vegetable
I would
oils on the
think
skin.
so. Is that a trend that I don't know about? That sounds crazy.
Yeah, most skincare products have vegetable oils in them. Soy oil, corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. Yeah, vegetable oils don't belong in the skin, and ceramides are a little bit better. Nonetheless, the best way to get ceramides is to make sure you're getting your essential fatty acids. Now, you can get essential fatty acids from foods, grains, fish, eggs, most nuts, seeds, flax seeds, of course, have essential fatty acids in them. But supplementing is really the best way to get your essential fatty acids, to make sure that your body always has a constant supply. And then making sure you're using digestive enzymes and probiotics. If you have intestinal problems or bile problems, gallbladder problems, that you're correcting those, because you need all the machinery to be able to absorb these essential fatty acids. Have you ever heard people say, I have dry skin and I'm drinking so much water?
Yeah, actually,
but it's not helping.
Yeah.
Because it has nothing to do with water. It has to do with water trapping, right? In order for the skin to stay hydrated, the water has to be bound. It has to be trapped. It has to be structured. And what is it that structures the water? Collagen, protein, and also to a certain extent electrolytes. So building connective tissue is really important, just because the connective tissue will help trap the water. Drinking water is not going to help your skin stay hydrated. As important as drinking water is, a lot of reasons why drinking water is important, but as far as keeping your skin hydrated, you can drink all the water you want, and it's not going to help your dry skin if you're not making the moisture factors, the fatty acids, if your barrier is not strong, and if you don't have enough connective tissue or collagen to trap that water.
That's interesting because I actually have been taking a collagen supplement, which is quite delicious.
Yeah.
And I've been having less problem with dehydration.
That's right. Because the collagen is now being built up and you can trap the water more effectively.
Sold.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What else we got here? Are we good?
Yeah.
Are we feeling good? You guys like that? I think the recap was great. We know what goes on the surface.
Yeah.
We know what goes in the body to make the barrier the strongest and support it and make it the best that it can. So I think that just wraps up our show.
All right.
And as always, you guys, I always say this, if you're not an ASCP member, join today at ascpskincare.com. And if you like this episode, because who doesn't? Who couldn't? It's amazing, right? It's so good. Subscribe today so you never miss a single one. Details from what we discussed today will be in the show notes. And of course, if you can't get enough of Ben Fuchs, the Rogue Pharmacist, you can listen to a syndicated radio program at thebrightsideben.com. Thanks, everyone, and build that barrier.